Let's get scratching.
We got an explosive broadcast coming to you. Listen up. Sega games, just keep playing them.
We're back. It's the SEGAbits Swingin Report Show live. Get ready for Sega interviews and news.
I stand still alone that twilight. Outside of
Hello and welcome to the SEGAbits Swingin Report Show Live. I'm Barry, and it is a beautiful 3 o'clock Chicago time. Why am I doing this show so early? I mean, we do the opening credits. It shows the city of Chicago at night, but I don't think it's nighttime outside right now. That's because we have a special guest coming in. It's night where he is.
Yes, it is.
Without further ado, let's bring him in here. It is of SEGAdriven fame. It's Lewis, a.k.a. Sonic Yoda.
Hello.
Oh, wow. People are excited. I play that and I hear a woman really loud going, yay! And I'm like, I don't think any women read our site or even watch our videos. No, thank you so much for joining in.
No, thank you very much for having me, buddy. It's been too long since we've caught up I suppose in person, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, no, definitely. I should initiate more stuff with you as well. I'm bad for talking to the community, unfortunately.
It's not a problem at all. It's like, I mean, I definitely want to get into it, but I did want to share this so people in the YouTube verse. This is a picture of us that I took, or you took. I don't know who took this. Someone took it. I believe this was at Sonic Boom. Was that right?
Yes.
You came to New York.
Yes. That's the one and only time I've been to the US. And
That's wild.
Yeah,
It's a picture of us.
Yeah, no, I that day in particular is very wild for me because I remember I was walking around the show floor and I heard someone go Sonic Yoda, and I turned around and it was you. You'd recognise me, and I was just. It's just bizarre that I could have flown across, an ocean, 7 hours on a plane, go to somewhere I've never been to in my life, and someone knew who I was.
It was really wild because I think that was the first and last time I've seen a lot of people in person, and I'm not talking COVID-wise. Like, there's a lot of people I haven't seen in person, but I think just in terms of the way the community kind of works, it's like we're so spread out over the globe. There's so few events that we physically can attend because there's no more E3. There's no real Sonic events going on. There wasn't one for the 30th, and I know the pandemic caused that too. But not everyone's going to do an international flight for every single event.
Of course.
And what drove you to appear at the New York one? Because that was a strange and unique moment in Sonic history.
Yeah, well, absolutely. It was just the right time, right place sort of thing. So I travelled an awful lot with Sven Jocelyn from the Sonic Stadium and Adam Tuff, also from the Sonic Stadium, and we'd just done a Japan holiday that summer sort of thing, and I was in a good job at the time, and I had the disposable income, and it was Adam suggested, and I was good to do it. So I was like, okay, why not? Let's have a little break. We found some good prices. He was enamored with the fact that we could spend a little bit, not too mumuch more, and we could go and stay at the Waldorf Astoria. So he spent the entire time quoting "Coming to America" because he was obsessed with it. But yeah, no, it was a really lovely break, and obviously we had a few friends come over with us as well, and a good opportunity to catch up with people that we know online and stuff in person. So
absolutely.
Really last time I saw a Tika in person as well, RP. So that was a really lovely day that was.
Right.
And yeah.
Wow.
So,
I have another picture here I'm putting up. This is myself, Tails channel. I'm blanking on his name. Gareth.
Is it Gareth from Find the Cure Room?
That's it. Yep. I mean, he's kissing me almost, and I look really into it. So I better know his name if he's kissing me. No, but that was just wild. And there is a lot of. I mean, there's not a lot. I think there used to be a lot more drama within the community. And
it comes and goes, doesn't it? You spend any,
it comes
spend
with
any amount of
age.
time in it sort of fandom. There's always going to be,
Yeah.
cynicism and drama. It just happens, doesn't it? So.
Right. It comes with age, though, because we've been doing this a long time. Now, let me know, how long have you been doing SEGAdriven?
SEGAdriven since 2008.
Wow.
But I was doing a completely Sonic-centric site called Sonic Yoda, which is where the name comes from 2000. So, yeah. So I've been in the community for a fair old time.
That is a long time. And I mean, we started probably, I'm assuming we all started like in our like late teens, 20s, for a lot of the people in the blogging world.
Yeah.
And we've, I mean, obviously grown, but we're getting to that point where some people are reaching their late 30s, early 40s. Yeah. And I think with that, a lot of the drama is disappearing.
Well, yeah, it's, I think you go through its stages, right? I think when you first come through the community, it's very exciting to be, in amongst other people that have similar interests, and it's really just nice to be able to reach out to those people and find that you have a place and that you all have a shared passion.
Right.
Then the cynicism comes the longer you're in the community, and you start to be like, oh, this isn't for me anymore, and you start to get aggravated by the small things. But then I think if you stick around a community long enough, fandom long enough, you start to just hone in on the things that you like about said thing. And I think I've found the specialist stuff that really like I latch onto and hold on to and still enjoy. And it's like, all right, the quality may go up and down with any franchise, but there's always the stuff that you can really engross in and really get involved with. I've got a big love for the merchandise side of things, so I really like trying to catalogue all the Sega books that I can find and all the reading material. I really like to find home video releases because they're always so strange and out there. Like there's some stuff that you guys have got. Like there's an amazing like box set of like the Zillion anime and stuff.
Right.
And it's just like, how cool is it that exists? Like I think that's fantastic that things get re-released. But yeah, that stuff is really interesting to me, and I like to catalogue those sort of sides of the community now. And it's while the overall product is not genuinely always fantastic, like there's always those other things that you can really like take focus on and enjoy. And I think that's what's always kept me interested in the Sega side of things, and why I've always continued to run SEGAdriven. It's just always interesting for me because I've got those bits that I like.
Right. Yeah. And I'm showing people the site now. So it's largely a blog when you first visit it. News stories here, as expected, and then you have your information tabs. So you have reviews, you have hardware, merchandise, like you were talking about there. And I think the most unique thing about SEGAdriven is this cataloging. I know from experience with blogging that stories come and go. Once they leave the front page, you might not see them again unless it's something that Google really picks up on or social media really picks up on, and you're the like de facto story. Otherwise, it's just like kind of regurgitating a press release or a YouTube video, and there's nothing wrong with that.
No, absolutely.
That's kind of what we're there for. That's the reason those press releases go out, is so that we'll report on it and spread the information. But what I really appreciate about your site is that you have this niche here that's this, like I'm showing here, the Sonic Boom posters. You're not going to find like scans of this stuff.
Yeah, I try. I mean, like, unfortunately, some of the imagery is a little bit outdated, though it's not in the highest quality in the world. But it's just nice to be able to like catalog these things that really aren't sort of like getting much attention, or it would be nice to really devote more time to it and really go extensive, because my biggest influences with the website are probably Sonic HQ from back in the day. They used to have a really, really wide information resource, big list of games and all the cheats and everything associated with each individual game. So I always loved that side of things.
Right.
And I did a Sega 16 was another big one for me as well.
Oh,
They had a massive review.
that's the granddaddy of all Sega resources.
Yeah, absolutely. If I could ever, you know, expand to anything that large, I would. It would be a job well done as far as I'm concerned. That's always the goal, is to just have this huge information resource for people. As like you say, as much as it feels like a necessity now to have a blog front page where you've got the news happening, and that's
right.
And that's fine. It's always good to keep what's current on the front page, because ideally that's most of your traffic is just going to be people clicking links and seeing what's new and what's happening. But I've always kind of wanted to run SEGAdriven like a website and an information resource, and that's really where my passion is with the website. I love to expand the features on the hardware and find weird peripherals and things to add to it, and all these strange little variants to the systems. So yeah, that's the enjoyment for me, is making a place where people can go one-stop shop. Okay, what strange 8-bit variants of the Master System are kicking around? Like, it's just, I love that sort of thing. Really.
Yeah, I've definitely picked up on that. You like strange little oddities. You like strange little things. And that's cool, because I'm definitely into that too. Like, there are those who are like, here is my complete inbox Genesis collection. I own every single whatever. But then I really appreciate the types like us who are like, did you know that there's a fishing accessory for the Sega Pico and it only works with one Donald Duck game? Or just the strange little things like that you call out, like you're really into these LCD games.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and it's
I've
just
featured a few on the channel now, so yeah.
Yeah, and I really appreciate spotlighting kind of the things you don't usually see talked about. Like, I've heard more than enough about Shenmue, but no one's talking about the Pico game that released in the US called Musical Zoo that requires an exclusive overlay, and it's the only US game that has it. Like, to me, that's interesting, and that's what I'm archiving. I scanned that and put it on Sega Retro, and people were like, "Oh my God, I can finally play Musical Zoo on the Sega Pico," because you uploaded the overlay, and it's just like those tiny little things are they're small, but they're important, because we're cataloging, archiving, showcasing things that otherwise would get lost. Now, before I brought you on, I was kind of musing on my personal Twitter about how many Sega fan sites there were, and now how few there are. So many of them have dropped off the map in the past 2 or 3 years. There's really, as far as English-speaking ones, there's us, and then there's Sonic sites, and then there's some like Mexican language, Italian language ones, or German, and they never intersect with us, as far as I know. They kind of keep to themselves.
It's a shame. There's a few like Portuguese Sonic websites that sometimes intersect, but it's very difficult, obviously, isn't it, because of the language barrier. And I'd love to be able to collaborate more, but I feel as English speakers we are notoriously lazy at learning other languages, whereas I feel like most people with English as a second language really, really delve into that and try and reach out more, because it's this whole wider community that just seems to, unfortunately, they can't get involved in, and it's always nice to see people that reach out and generally try and just be more of a part of what's going on worldwide, because it's the unfortunate thing, isn't it? It's like English is the wider spoken language, but there are so many niches that I'd love to touch on. I mean, again, another thing that I'm absolutely fascinated with is the Brazilian side of Sega and Tectoy and all that. I just think that passion for the brand is so strong there still, and I'd love to learn more about it and have access to more of the hardware and stuff, but just import prices from Brazil are absolutely crazy to Europe. Yeah. So I don't think that can happen until I holiday in Brazil, I think. But yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, that sounds nice. That's. I mean, that's the real tricky thing, is that we're so spread out. I would say I've been kind of actively, like, it's not like a New Year's resolution thing or anything, but I've just been a little more active in interacting personally with people within the community, even if it's just like little little tweets, little Facebook things like that. A big change for me, and I didn't actively do this, but my Twitter account now defaults to my personal account rather than SEGAbits as soon as I open the app. And it's actually really helped me because it's caused me to see less of that like community-wide drama. Like I don't turn it on and see people complaining about Sonic so much. It's more like I only see the people I'm following, like yourself or Aaron Gagaman, Animated AF. He goes by many names. Tracker, you know. And it's just it's been a lot more positive experience for me as a fan now because it feels a little more personal. And that's part of the reason why I wanted to reach out and talk to you, because I mean, you know, it's not like we're going to be hanging out every weekend, but I feel like we have so many things in common. A lot of the times we're doing the same things, but we're very rarely talking to each other just on the side sometimes. And it's important, especially I think moving forward, because there are different types of content creators out there. You know, there's the Twitch streamers who have really become prominent. There's the YouTubers who have, you know, been there for a long time. And then there's kind of like the old guard of the fan sites who are either aging out of it or just kind of getting a little more chill, casual with it. And so I don't know.
It's strange because like I've never quite I've done YouTube for quite a while now, and it's never really sort of taken off like massively. I really enjoy it, and I think the problem is that I don't have a niche with YouTube. It's very much like, well, I run a Sega site, right? So I want to be wide and broad with my scope, and I'd like to just cover whatever takes my fancy at any given point, and hopefully if I can talk about it with enough passion, people will want to jump on board and watch those things.
Right.
But I think that's not really quite how YouTube works. I think YouTube works better when the channel has a specific focus that people can really go in for, and it's like, okay, if I want this specific thing, I go to this channel. But unfortunately, my channel has never been very specific. Now, I mean, there's a few moments throughout the year where it's like, okay, well, SEGAdriven is obviously going to cover Sage around, you know, sort of the full time, and the same with the hacking contest as well later in the year, and that seems to be always a big draw on the channel. But throughout the year, it's just fair game. It's like, okay, well, if I want to review Art Alive on the Mega Drive, then I'm going to do that.
Right.
Because I have some weird, you know, nostalgia for that, and it's like, okay, I'm sure I can make an entertaining video out of it, you know. So yeah, it's never quite fit in with the YouTube ethos, and same with streaming. I've tried streaming, but I don't know, it doesn't really click with me. I like to create a thing and edit it down and make it its best, you know, contained thing. Whereas streaming always feels really flabby to me. It's just like, I don't know if I've got enough interesting things to just blab about for an hour or however long. Just
right.
It's a skill. It's a skill being entertaining and streaming. I think it's a lot harder work, but I can edit an entertaining video, I think, but it's
right.
It's just one of the never quite vibe with me, and I think that's probably because of the background with the website, because it's like I like to write, I like to construct a thing and make something specific for purpose, whereas streaming always feels very sort of like I'm just kind of shooting the. I won't swear.
I know what you mean, and there's also this like. This way that you think you're supposed to go about it. Like you see how streamers, you see how YouTubers do it, and you're like, I guess I have to do the reaction face on the video. I guess I have to be the star of the content. I guess I need to do the wall of video games behind me in all my videos. I guess I need to like post a video every day. And I've learned to just kind of stop chasing it. I used to be very obsessive with how many views we got. I'd be like, if we dip below 1,000 views on a video, I'm going to be upset. And now like I look and I'm like, oh, we only got 300 views on that one video. But I put it into perspective. Like if those are, if even if half of those are like active viewers who are seeing it from beginning to end and are really into it, like a couple hundred people isn't a lot on the internet, but it is a lot, because I have done one panel in my lifetime at Too Many Games in outside Philadelphia, we packed a room and people were standing, and I was like, this is amazing.
That's awesome.
And
Yeah.
and it was not, I mean, it was probably, less than 100 people, but it was people who were engaged and interested in what we had to say. And it really put things into perspective. And so when I came back and was doing YouTube videos again, I'm like, you know what? If people are watching this and enjoying it, that's all that matters. I don't need to hit these metrics. I don't need to get the plaque.
No.
It would be nice, but I don't know. Like, I just kind of...
Look, if it ever happens, that's great, right? But
right.
Like, I'd rather find the niche that entertains me and continue to put that forward. Because if I'm being entertained, then surely I'm putting forward a passionate video or a passionate piece of writing. I would much prefer that to be my output than just, okay, I guess I've got to do another one of these because that's the way I get views or that's the way I get hits. It's just like that's no way to be a part of a fandom online. I think if you're be it, writing for fan sites or making fan content like we have been for so long now, you've got to be passionate about it. Otherwise, why do it? So yeah, that's always been the thing for me. It's like I'd rather stay engaged with it and find the things that I really enjoy, so that I can continue to be passionate about Sega and stuff. So, yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. And you actually, you're not doing it alone. You have other people on the site, or at least one other person, correct? Tracker.
Yeah, it's mainly just Tracker. But, so he joined a few years back now, and it's been really lovely having him on board because, I'm super blessed to have someone like him on board because he's very ear to the ground, always picks up on things that I'm not so aware of, like lots of more niche things. He's broken some really cool stories, and yeah, it's just lovely to have someone like that on board and pick up on the bits and pieces that I wouldn't generally sort of touch upon just because for whatever reason they don't touch my sphere of influence or whatever. And yeah, he's a great lad. I'm really, really chuffed that he agreed to come on board, and he's
That's
really
awesome.
helps like grow. And it's like, yeah, he's a great friend as well. We've met a few times in person. Normally it's summer makes and things, but even though we're in the same country, he's not exactly local, so we don't get to catch up as much. But we always get on like a house on fire whenever we do. It's really, really nice to have him on board. So yeah,
that's fantastic.
It's been great. I really enjoyed having Tracker with us.
Yeah, because he used to, he would write occasionally for us, but mainly did like YouTube videos for us before he went off and did some of his own stuff. And I wish him well. I haven't really talked to him all that much. It's just, again, just kind of like people come and go within the communities, and sometimes you just kind of stop chatting. But I wish him well. I love his content, so I'm really glad that he landed there. There's no drama between us. It's just kind of like, it is what it is. I just one day I was like, oh, he's on the other side. That's cool. But yeah, so I wanted to talk about interests you have outside of Sega. Now, obviously, you have an interest in games, hardware. So are there any other, and I'm not talking about like, say, oh, I like PlayStation or Xbox, but like dig down a little deeper. Like, what are some games you're super passionate about?
Oh, super passionate. Right. Well, the Myst franchise for one. That started a few years back because I think like most people's experience with Myst like is you muck around for a bit, try and figure out what's happening, and pull some switches, nothing really happens, you get frustrated and turn it off, right? So I decided a few years back I'm going to actually properly sit down with a walkthrough, play the game, learn its mechanics, and figure out what's going on. So yeah, I did that. Absolutely loved it. I think it's such an amazingly atmospheric game, really pretty. I love that there's like no like what's the word? There's no like danger at any given point. You don't really have to worry about a timer or any enemies. You're never going to get killed. It's very explorative. I just the experience was extremely relaxing, and it just once I'd been through it, I was like, okay, this is fantastic. I understand now why this was like the top selling PC game of all time for a while. Right. And yeah, it just made me want to dive into that franchise, and I got really obsessed with it. I think it's a fantastic thing. It reminds me a lot of like the sort of modern sort of walking sim type games, things like Dear Esther and I'm trying to think of some other ones now. There's one with the tower. That's really annoying. Cool. I can't come to mind at the moment. But yeah, I really love those explorative sort of story-driven games. I think they're really just relaxing to play, and I like as well a very sort of like condensed experience. I'm not one for 100-hour RPGs and things like that. So it's just nice to be able to have an evening and go through a game to its completion within an hour or two. So that's really nice. And yeah, that's a franchise I'm absolutely obsessed with now. I think I've got a bit of a strange attitude when it comes to finding new things to enjoy. I get a little bit too obsessed with, well, now I'm a fan of this, I now need to be the biggest fan of this, and I start to get all the games and all the extraneous material. And like,
that's me.
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, to talk about Myst briefly, that I like that you brought up. There's no enemies. I mean, there's no time limit. There's no, to my knowledge, there's no time limit. There's no impending danger. Yeah. So it's a rare game that you can just casually play. And I do really love that about it. I'm thinking of like similar games like D, where there is a time limit.
Of course.
And there are dangers, and so D's like, it's like Evil Myst or something like that. But yeah, it's a really serene game too, really calm and relaxing to play. I got acquainted with it when I was in grade school. I took a video game design like summer camp, and it was 2 weeks. The first week we would play Myst, and then the second week we would design a game using this very simplistic software. It was, I don't know what it was called, but you had elements. It was easy enough for grade schoolers to learn, but you had a turtle, and the turtle was the player, and then you would say like, if turtle does this, and then what you could do is you could create new pixel graphics for these things within the game, so that the turtle would become your player, and just the code would refer to the player as turtle. And I used like Myst kind of as inspiration for it, obviously, because we were playing it. But I believe I made a game called The Last Knight, but it was Knight, and you were a knight who was separated from his group, and then you had to find your way home. So you would go through all of these puzzles, and each page was a puzzle.
That's awesome.
But it was a lot of fun. But yeah, Myst has always been like, I guess, important to me for that reason, because it was my first real experience in game design. I've never designed anything since in a video game. I also really liked the materials that came along with Myst. There was I don't know if you have them there, but it's like the type of stores that sell overstock stuff. So it's like we couldn't sell. So basically, they were selling these Myst packs. It came with a Myst T-shirt, a Myst novel, and then like something else Myst, and it was in a cardboard box. Everything but the game Myst was in there, and I got it for like $5. And I read the novel. I don't know if it was the Book of Atris or something like that.
That's the first novel, yeah.
Yeah, I read it for a book report, and I just remember feeling like such an adult. I was like, wow, this book's so deep. It's like a book about books, and you go inside the books.
Well, that's the appeal of the games as well. It's like, how many games are there that about like the joy of reading and like getting involved in a world that exists within the pages and stuff? It's like it's a very physical representation of, oh, you read to take yourself to another world. It's like, absolutely, like that's such a lovely idea. It's very romantic, I think, is what I think of that whole concept. But yeah, it's a really lovely thing, and I think those novels as well as expanded universe material goes, they are some of the better like video game novels out there. I was very surprised at how much they added to the overall story and backstory of the characters. I think that's a fantastic little thing. And again, like it's that fascination with me about all the extraneous bits and pieces. I mean, I know we're both Star Wars fans, and I'm sure we both dabble in expanded universe things over the past. And that's always the fun for me. It's like, okay, well, if the main franchise isn't giving me what I want right now, the comics are, or the books are, or there's lots of other bits and pieces to explore, and that's that. Again, I love delving into big franchises and finding all those other little bits and pieces that take my fancy. So yeah, no, it's been I love that franchise.
Yeah, I saw too that. Backtrack. During the pandemic, I started to get really into stuff that I used to be into. Just working from home, I'd be digging through boxes, finding things. So yeah, I was. What was my big obsession over? The X-Files was my big thing over the pandemic. Was
Really?
looking for X-Files books, looking for X-Files like fan guides, and so I did. I amassed this extraneous materials collection of X-Files. So I'm like, I've got all the X-Files novels, and then I'm like, oh no, I gotta read them. I don't really want to read them, but I have them.
I know the feeling. It's strange, isn't it? It's like I feel it's like it's almost like an obsessive attitude where it's just like I feel like I'm missing something if I don't engage with all the other stuff, and it's just like it maybe it's a little bit like unhealthy to be like that with all the things that you get into, to just be like, I need to check out everything now that I'm into this one thing. But yeah, I like to think I've got control.
Well, I wanted to talk about Sonic the Hedgehog for a moment. So, I mean, that's a franchise with a lot of stuff to get into. And for me, as an American, I've always wanted to read the Sonic the comics in full, and it's just been so difficult because I mean, maybe I can seek out scans. I'm sure they're out there.
There are, yeah.
But it's such a disappointment that there is no reprint of those stories. Same with Archie. I mean, if you guys want to read Archie, you got to pirate them too, because over half the Archie library is unpublished, undigital. The only way you can get it is the original floppy comics. So I mean, it's almost, I guess it's kind of a good thing that it's so hard to find every single piece of Sonic material. Otherwise, I'm sure you and I would be trying to amass all of it,
I know the feeling. Yeah.
I want to know everything there is about Sonic, so I got to read every single comic book from every single country. I've got to play every single game. And of course, there is a new game coming out now. We've got Sonic Frontiers. What are you looking forward to, and what are you kind of fearing from that game, if anything?
I think it's too early to tell at the moment. I don't like to get stuck at that horrible sort of fandom Sonic cycle thing where it's just like, it looks amazing, and then it comes out and it's disappointing, and everybody sort of gets stuck in that loop. I've tried to break away from that now, because it's just you can't know how something is going to work mechanically on a short little trailer that doesn't show you any gameplay, and it's let's see more and experience a little bit more of it before we make any judgment calls at the moment. I think the idea of an open world Sonic game is really intriguing, and I'd love to see how it's going to work out. I am genuinely quite excited to see what the end goal is with the open world. I think that could be really interesting.
Right.
I'm a little bit concerned that it's going to move too fast for you to really engage with the open world, but at the same time, it could be a case that they're slowing Sonic down so you can actually appreciate the environment's a little bit better. But again, it's too early to tell. It's just
That's true.
We haven't seen how he controls or functions, or it's at the moment it's like, okay, well, I'm guessing it's modern Sonic style and there's going to be an open world. But even the things that you would normally associate with Sonic the Hedgehog, we haven't seen any badniks, we haven't even seen any rings. So it's how wildly different is this going to be, or are they holding things back that are very atypical Sonic? So I'm cautiously optimistic at the moment, because you've got to be, you engage with a franchise this long. I think it's good to be, well, it could surprise us. It could be great. I remember when Sonic Colors was coming out, and initially it was a case of, okay, I don't know what to think of this, and then to preview it, and it was like, this is now my favorite 3D Sonic game.
Right.
So
yeah.
it's you can never know until you get some hands on time, really. So
yeah, that's a great point, because when I look at the videos and the screenshots and read about, there's just a recent interview that went out about how they want seamless transitions between zones and areas, which I think is really interesting.
Yeah.
My mind kind of goes different places. On one hand, I could see it as almost like this sprawling, almost like Phantasy Star Online 2 feeling game where the only real Sonic thing is Sonic and maybe Eggman and his friends, and outside of that, you're going to be seeing a lot of new stuff. He's not even going to be collecting rings. He's not even going to be battling robots. But then on the other hand, I could also see it turning out like, there will be these just like random patterns of rings to kind of get you to explore areas. You're like, well, I didn't want to go that way, but there's 30 rings in a row, so I might as well follow that path, see where it takes me. Cool. There's actual... I mean, and so we just don't know right now. And I see the Sonic fan community kind of like picking at nits right now, or just making up drama. Like they go, oh, the model looks the same. I have not thought about Sonic's model since 2001. Like, quite honestly, I care, but I don't care that much. So when people say, oh, it's the Forces model, I go, okay, so he looks like Sonic. And they're, oh, it's different than that.
Yeah. No. I mean, look, it's a great character design. It doesn't need to go through evolutions and, we need to add thousands more polys to it because we're making use of modern hardware. You got to remember, it's releasing across generations as well. It's not going to run well if it's going to be thousands of polys on Switch, is it? Especially in an open world game. So, like, it's going to have to hold a few things back to be cross-compatible and run at a decent pace. So, like, I'm sure the higher-end systems will run it better, and it will probably run at 60 and be at 4K and things, and that'll be fantastic. If the art design is great enough, it will transfer across the ports. It doesn't matter. But it's not necessary to the character. As long as it's like, okay, there's Sonic, he's doing his thing in the game, and it looks like Sonic, then we're all good. Like, we can carry on and move on with our lives.
Right, absolutely. Yeah. It's interesting that, we both attended the Sonic Boom event where they debuted, I think, one of the first fan-accessible playable demos of Rise of Lyric, correct? That was there.
Oh God, yeah, it was. I think it was, yeah.
And so I think that was I wouldn't say it's a similar situation because that was dealing with a third-party Sega of America product. This is a very different beast with Sonic Frontiers, but it was a situation where we're like, all right, well, let's be cautiously optimistic. Let's check it out. And I remember as soon as they put that controller in my hands, I knew something was off. And I'm like, I hope this is like a demo, like with, It felt automated. It felt slow and choppy. It just did not feel right. I felt like I was playing Sonic Heroes, but like on rails. You know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. It was a strange old time for the franchise. It's weird to think back to a time where there were 3 different eras of Sonic competing at the same time. Mm-hmm. They made clear distinctions between classic, modern, and boom. And they were all running concurrently, and it was like, lads, you just need to like focus on one thing and do it well. Like, I hate to always bring like the Nintendo comparison back, but like there is clearly a Bible for Mario. Like he can only be this way, he can only control this way, he can only live this way. Whereas Sonic, it's just like it is so fractured now, where it's like, we need to appeal to all these different elements of the fan base. So we've got to have a classic, we've got to have a modern, we've got to have a boom. We've got to cover all these bases, and some of the games can be action, some of them will be racing, some of them can be platformers.
Right.
I would just like to see a little bit of cohesiveness from the Sonic franchise sometimes. Like,
right.
That's the thing that worries me a little bit with Frontiers, is that we're now scrapping everything that's come before and starting fresh, and it's like, okay, this is now what we're going to try. Hopefully this one will work, and then we can continue doing this style for however many games. But it's just like, I would much prefer you to set on a house style, perfect it, and just continue to iterate on it over the years. I would much prefer that sort of thing. Because,
what was unique about Forces, though, is it was almost like a culmination of the 3D era, because it referenced everything from Chaos and Sonic Adventure all the way through the previous game. And I know people are down on that game, but that's actually my favorite element of it, is that it really feels like I wouldn't say it's a celebration. I think Generations was a true celebration of Sonic in all eras, but Forces felt like a culmination, if anything. It was like, all right, we're taking everything from Sonic Adventure all the way through to the previous game you played. It's all like, this is kind of the end of the story, and then we're moving on to something new. Because I think even at the end, Sonic was just like, all right, bye. He like ran off. And so I would not be bothered if we get into a new era of Sonic that's similar to Unleashed, where it's like new places, new characters, and the only real elements that aren't changing are Sonic and his friends, Rings and Robotnik. And we don't need to have references to Spagonia and
absolutely,
the Deadly Six and Chaos, because there was a real, almost like there was a connection there going from Colors to what was it, Generations, because Colors led into Generations. Like the plot, it had flashbacks to the events of it. And then Lost World happened, which kind of felt like a reboot, but then Forces came out, which took elements from Lost World and mixed it in with the previous games. So
and Lost World obviously took elements from Colors as well, because there's Whiz powers. So absolutely, there's a lot of connection. I understand that, and I like that cohesiveness. Sometimes it's just like, okay, we've got some things that work. Let's carry them forward, and we'll iterate on them. But again, it's like that core gameplay mechanic just always changes so frequently. Like Lost World was just like, okay, boost gameplay's out, we're now going to do this weird parkour thing.
Right.
It's just like, okay, that's interesting, but like I don't know if we need to reinvent the wheel every time we do a new Sonic game. I'd like there at least to be some core mechanics that carry over each time, so that it's not like I have to learn a whole new set of mechanics every time. It's like,
hold trigger to run.
Is the fucking attack going to be on its own button now, or is it going to be on something else? It's just a bit strange. So that's what works so well with Sonic Mania, is that you put the controller in your hand and it just felt like you were continuing on from Sonic 3 and Knuckles. It was just like, and I see younger fans or modern fans who are like, what's the big deal? You guys are making up all this excitement. You're not that. You're just, you're trying to make the modern fans look bad by gushing over Mania. But I'm like, no, you don't get it. Like, it feels one-to-one, which I thought was impossible after Sonic 4 and after the advanced games. And and even after Generations, I actually really liked how classic Sonic handled, but it was not a perfect, it did not feel like the same controls as the Genesis games. But it was absolutely amazing. And so I would absolutely love to like have my hands go on the controller with Frontiers, and I'm like, wow, I feel like it just feels so natural. It feels almost like a callback to some of Sonic's best 3D controlling, which in my opinion, in terms of exploration, maybe would be like the Adventure 1 and 2 games, and even Unleashed. I think Unleashed was a lot of fun to control when you were exploring, not boosting. I think the thing working against Unleashed was more its performance than its controls. It was just so stuttery, and it always felt like you were a little bit out of control because of just its own in-game performance. But the actual controls themselves were really solid and robust, and when it was running at a good clip, it always felt like you had full control over the character. Unleashed is a strange old game. That was the one that kind of killed my Sonic sight at the time, because I was very sort of caught up in that hype cycle. I remember seeing the trailers and thinking, oh, fantastic, we're getting multi-tiered 2D stages again, and we're going to have that sort of old school exploration. And then I played the game, and a lot of people were down on the Werehog stuff, but I was really down on the Day stuff, because I felt like the game early on teaches you that you've got this boost mechanic that you should really make use of and always be pushing forward. And then as the game progresses, the stages get very obsessed with pitfalls, and it's like, well, now I need to be careful, and it's working against what you've taught me earlier on, so I'm always falling down pits, and it's just very infuriating to play. So that was the thing that really sort of like killed it for me. I was just like, I'm not too sure I've got the energy for this franchise anymore. It's not doing the things that I'd like it to do. So that was the thing that was the catalyst for like, okay, let's call time on the Sonic site, and maybe we'll go full Sega, because there's a lot of other stuff that I enjoy that I can give my time, and when I feel I've got the passion for Sonic, I can come back to that, you know. So that was, I think it was a good choice in the end. But yeah, it was a bit of a, as you can imagine at the time, I was a little bit younger, so you can imagine the dramatic. I'm closing the site.
Oh my God, yeah.
Sonic doesn't
Well,
do anything for me anymore.
I look back at the forum posts I was making back in like 2008, 2010. I'm like, where did I find the energy to talk for 30 pages with people, multiple paragraphs? Like nowadays, I'm just like typing LOL or whatever, you know. Like
yeah, exactly.
I don't have the time or patience.
Yeah.
Now there's I did want to talk a little bit about what is the big drama. The other big piece of drama right now is NFTs.
Yeah.
And I wanted to know what your thoughts were just on NFTs in association with Sega, NFTs in gaming, and just like, do you think there's too much drama around them? Like, what are your opinions?
I mean, to be honest with you, I think there's too much energy put into them. We've established they are bad for the environment, a scam, overpriced, and mostly a waste of most people's time. Yet, because the obviously the effort into making them and the profit that can be gained from them is so high that of course everybody wants to jump on board, because at the end of the day, this is a conglomerate business, gaming, and if there's money to be made, we'll make money, right? So it's inevitable that games companies are probably going to jump on that. But at the same time, I feel like it's an easy win, right? To just be like, we're not doing this because it's bad for the environment and a waste of time and energy. So let's not do that. So yeah, I haven't got an awful lot of energy for NFTs. The fact that we're talking about them every single day is quite
right
exhausting. And I just wish people would move on and just be like, you do realize how silly this is. We're buying images for inordinate amounts of money, and I know it's not really the image that you own, it's basically like a URL. But scarcity is such a stupid thing. Like, what is the point of making anything digital scarce? Like, if it's going to be digital, there should be a considered effort to archive. That should always be the future of digital. It's like, okay, we're going to make something digital. It's now available to however many people, and it's archived on this website for all time, hopefully.
Right.
Digital scarcity just seems like a real backwards move in any sort of environment on a digital space. So yeah, I did put a little comment out on the SEGAdriven Twitter when the trademarks for the Sega NFT showed up. I know there's not really an awful lot of there's a lot of discussion about whether that's going to happen or not. Maybe it's just them protecting their brand and making sure that nobody jumps on their bandwagon and Sega NFTs without Sega's involvement. But the fact that they've considered what's happening there and potentially might do it, I just wanted to put a little statement out and say, I don't appreciate Sega going into this environment. I would much prefer the company not do that and not create more bad things for the world.
Right.
And also as well, like, it seems very counterproductive because Sega did this big thing recently where they moved all the Football Manager packaging to be fully recyclable, which was a lovely gesture and something I would love to see more companies take on board. And yet they were considering, doing NFTs, which are obviously bad for the environment. So it just doesn't seem to work with the current climate of Sega at the moment. So yeah, it was just a little bit disappointing to see the trademarks come up and stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you said they're a waste of energy. I think they're a waste of energy on two fronts, like environmentally and just spending so much time talking about them. Like,
exactly.
I was doing one of my like morning news shows, and where I just kind of go through what we posted on the site, chat about it. Honestly, it's just a great way for me to take in what's going on myself, get a like a pulse on what people are thinking. And I think I said, like, I don't care about NFTs to the point where I don't really want to talk about them. And and there was like a comment saying I should care about them and I should learn about them so I can like hate them better or something. And I'm like, but I don't want to. Like, I don't want to learn so much about, like, there's movies and TV shows I look at and I'm like, I hate that. I'm not going to watch it. But I don't go online and talk about it constantly about how much I hate it. And I feel like that's just feeding into it. I mean, like any publicity is good publicity, they might say. So if I keep talking about NFTs, even if I'm being negative about it, people are like, well, they're getting the attention of people. They seem to get stirred up when they talk about it, so there must be people who like it, you know.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, absolutely. You could fall easily the same sort of like, what's it called, where you like write something sensationalist on purpose for getting clicks. Clickbait.
Yeah.
So yeah, you could absolutely go full in on NFT and be clickbaity and just be like, okay, loads of traffic towards the site because that's the current talking point. But
Right.
it would be hollow. Right? You would be just like, I don't care about these things. Yeah, I've put myself in a position where I have to write about them or have to feature them because it brings the traffic and it brings the revenue. But you're writing for a fan site. Like you should do the things that you engage with and you are passionate about, because otherwise it would just be like, well, I'm not going to do this for much longer because I've lost full interest. You know? So yeah, it's the same thing with NFTs. I'd rather not engage with it because I don't have the time or energy, and it would just drive me insane.
Now there was something within the fandom community, like Balan Wonderworld, where that was like the clickbait. Everyone had to write an article tearing it down, complaining about it.
Yeah.
And yeah, that seemed to be like kind of like, you know, what I'm seeing at the internet at large with NFTs is it's like, well, this is something I don't really have an interest in, I don't have a full understanding of, but I don't like it and I'm just going to keep talking about it. And it's almost like, I don't know, like I know I'm making a weird transition to Balan Wonderworld, but with NFTs, but it just seems like there are a lot of people who got bent out of shape over that game, and I've seen videos and articles, and one of the first things they say is, now I've only played the demo, and I'm like, then why are you don't write a piece about it if you haven't played the game. I haven't played the game. I played a demo. I thought it was all right, but not enough for me to want to buy the game. But it's also not enough for me to have a firm opinion on it and start posting hyper negative articles constantly. I saw you kind of dipping into that. What are have you played that game? Do you have a strong opinion on Balan?
Very, yeah, it dropped from me because it was a song. So yeah, I was just at a point. Well, I love me a 3D platformer. I've engaged in Yuji Naka's work over my life for quite a long time now. Might as well give it a go. And I do like it. It's a fun little game. Like, it's a good little exploration sort of collectathon style platformer. There's lots of, if you engaged in a piece of Yuji Naka or Naka work, you'll enjoy the fact that the art style is very similar. It's got that sort of whimsy. It's got the Yuji Naka one button controls. That's really fun. Like he dedicates the whole game to every action, every move. It's quite control scheme and make it work. And I think it's quite interesting to see how well he's dedicated that whole game to that concept. But at the same time, like, yeah, I can see that there's things that don't work, and I can see that there's things that wouldn't click with other people. But I feel like if you've got any sort of interest in 3D platformers, you should probably just give it a go, especially at the price it's at now. It's so dirt cheap. Like, it's worth making your own mind up. I think the problem with that game in particular was because unfortunately Yuji Naka's become a bit of a whipping boy now. It's like he's associated with some of the worst excesses with the Sonic franchise. Since he's left, he's kind of floundered and done all these weird bits and pieces that nobody's really quite engaged with. And I think people want Yuji Naka to make a great game, but it's more entertaining if he fails for a lot of the internet for some reason. And it's a shame, because he's obviously just, you know, he's a game creator. He just wants to continue to do what he likes doing, and he's a programmer at heart. And it was nice to see him have a project where he could lead on that and have a good time. But yeah, it was kind of it was a shame that that project was almost like indicative of what his career was going to be after that. And I feel like because it undersold, he has, you know, kind of lost his footing at Square Enix, and he has to kind of back to the drawing board sort of thing. I mean, he's got nothing to prove at this point.
No.
I just hope I just hope he finds something that gives him the happiness. Like I've seen him doing little mobile games and bits and pieces now, and it's nice to see him back to programming, and obviously he enjoys that side of things. So yeah, it's strange, isn't it? It's just I feel like the internet really has it in for Yuji Naka for some reason, and it's just like, well, he did make one of the most seminal platformers of all time. Like we cut right?
Right. And same goes for Yu Suzuki too. I feel like people expect him. They're like, well, he needs to keep making those AAA massive hits, and they already, both Yuji Naka and Yu Suzuki already have some amazing games under their belts. They could have retired and just had that be that. So the fact that they're still working and doing something, I think, is commendable. I never expected another Sonic the Hedgehog from Yuji Naka. Me personally, I never really saw him as a powerhouse 3D game developer. I always saw that his
no, that's not really been his thing, is it?
Right, it's 2D.
So well within the 2D space and understanding momentum and physics and really making the Mega Drive sing. To be honest with you, like I think he did some amazing work there. But he's a programmer at heart. He's not really a director. He's not really a franchise controller. Like that's not really his thing. He came from a programming background. So I think I think it's unfair to just judge his 3D work and his work as a director and producer over things where he actually had hands-on development, like involvement, and as a programmer. I think that there's a real distinction that needs to be made there. And yeah, it's just I don't know. The internet has just decided for whatever reason that Yuji Naka's like a bit of a meme, and it's like it's funny to like take the piss out of him. Sorry,
right.
I shouldn't swear. But yeah,
that's unfortunate. And I mean, I will say, here, Shot 2048, his mobile game, I absolutely love it. I think it's an awesome game.
Oh, really?
It kind of reminds me of the smaller little puzzle games that he would make, like Choo Choo Rocket or something like that, where there's just like there's a kernel of an idea there, and then he takes it to kind of perfects it. And you see that with Sonic, where it's like, what if we had a platformer game where the character could roll into a ball and had like almost pinball physics to him, and it was like momentum based. In this case, it's like, what if we had a dice game with physics, and then the dice would merge with other dice of the same number and color, would multiply based on that number, and you had to use both skill-based, flicking or shooting the dice, and math-based, and then you also had like the area before it, the dice could not fall into that. So if you come up short, you have to shoot the next dice real quick to kind of almost pool game it in. And there's just it's such a simple concept, and yet it is super addicting. And like, it sounds weird for me to say this, but like, I think it's one of his best works in years, and it's just a silly little mobile game. But
yeah, absolutely.
It says, it speaks a lot to what
he's always excelled at that sort of thing. Like
exactly.
Like Ivy the Keyboard is a very similar thing, where it's just like, okay, I've got this interesting mechanic for making bridges. Let's have an auto-scrolling character, and we'll design some cool stages around it. Or like, let's tap. It's like I've figured out a different way to use the Wiimote, and we're going to make some mini games around that really utilize that as a concept. And it's like, I love those sort of things. I think they're really creative. I was a big fan of Let's Tap. I thought that was such a fun little minigame collection, so different, so unique, and it could have only come out of the mind of someone like that, who's obviously always looking for interesting things to do with tech. And just it's awesome to see him continue to find little mechanics and interesting things that he can do with current devices, and go back to programming and get hands on. It's really cool to see. I do wish him well. I think he's been unfairly sort of like dumped on by the community at large. It seems really a shame that someone like that is obviously making such interesting stuff and just having to face the wrath of a community that just like, haha, you made a bad platformer for whatever reason. It's just like,
right. And I'm glad he tried. I'm glad that he made it, even if it's not my favorite thing from him. with Balin. But I do hope he sticks with it. I hope he doesn't retire permanently. And I would like to see more stuff from him that's on the level of that dice game I mentioned, or even like Let's Tap. There was the game few have played because it's WiiWare only, Let's Catch, which
oh god, yeah, where it's like the characters chatting with each other.
It's just playing a game of catch, I think with a kid, and he tells you about his life. And it's such a, to me it always felt like a very Yu Suzuki kind of game, because he had a game about like an old man and like a peach or something, or a tree, you know, like it was just like such a wacky concept. But I love it. And I think Yuji Naka would do well to maybe not make some of the worst he did with Probe, which was like there was like Tappy Bear. It was like tap the bear to make him stand. And it's just like, what are you doing with your time, dude? But I would love to see him do smaller games like Choo Choo Rocket, like the dice game I mentioned, like Let's Catch, where it's him using his programming skills and his finding something that's fun and then expanding it into a full game. And I think that's his strength. So I wish him well. I think he should get a lot more in terms of the Sonic stuff going on now, though. Like, it kind of made me sad when he's like, "Oh, I had to go out and buy the Lego set." I'm like, why is he not getting that in the mail for free? You know,
that must have been so. Can you imagine how bizarre it was? It would have been like the Lego store worker to be like, "But you're Yuji Naka." I would have just been, "Well, you can have this."
Right, exactly. Or with the Sonic movie, like, you know, obviously it's not their job to like reach out to him and ask him to collaborate or anything,
No.
but it would have been nice to maybe have like a cameo from Naka and Iizuka and the old guard, you know, of Sonic Team. And who knows, maybe they'll get to that by the third Sonic game or Sonic movie. But it kind of feels like the Sonic brand's kind of disconnected from their history. And I guess it makes sense. I mean, you see that with a lot of big franchises now. Like George Lucas isn't connected to Star Wars, even though he's, you know, alive and going to restaurants and stuff and just hanging out. But I don't know, like, these guys aren't going to be here for that long, so why not utilize them while you can? Bring them on as, you know, consultants for games or movies. I'm surprised that we're not seeing, like, Sonic movie posters from the original artists or Crush 40. I don't think they've been teasing that they're in the movie, but then they were like, oh, we're not in the movie, guys. Don't worry.
I think, I think Johnny is kind of obsessed with the idea of being on a soundtrack and probably whatever royalties that brings. But but yeah, like, I mean, again, but it would be nice, right? It would be nice to have that little touch, because I know for a fact that the community has always been really into those moments when they happen, and they're few and far between. Like, for example, like the Sonic X finale, where, you know, it's playing Live and Learn in the Japanese soundtrack and stuff, and it's just like people really bond with those moments, because it's like that's excellent that they you know, cross transmuted all the media into one thing, and it came together in this lovely little moment. And it would be lovely to see that in the movie as well, because the movie as well, like, I again, it's another one of those things where I'm just like, how can the fan community like see that poster and that trailer and go, oh, this isn't doing it for me? I'm like, this is like everything about that franchise that you could possibly want encapsulated in a movie. Like, I'm just like,
Right.
I'm like, I don't get it sometimes. I really don't get how people can be like, look, it's that's Sonic. That's Sonic. There's Sonic and Tails on the tornado, and there's Buzz Bombers.
Yeah.
And Dr. Robotnik is like Jim Carrey. Like, what the hell? Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely mad.
The first movie and the second movie, in terms of the development and rollout, it's night and day, or I should say day and night and day, because the first one was so misguided. Like, I don't know what they were thinking in getting that far in development that they thought that was what Sonic should look like, and even that's what the plot of a Sonic movie should be. Now, I think they band-aid over the design very well, but you can't really fix the fact that Sonic is on Earth. His best friend is a cop named Tom. You know, it's such a bizarre. It's so bizarre. You know, like, I never would have thought
It is strange.
It's weird.
Strange, but it's weird because like I think they needed to have a film where they establish a new set of rules to make the sequel work. It's strange. I can kind of see what they were thinking because it seems to have come together quite nicely for the sequel. We needed to have an establishment so that you could get involved with the franchise and kind of understand the characters and how they work in a sort of real world scenario before we go full. And now we're going to have an invading force of robots coming from a different planet, and it's a bald man in an Eggomatic. I don't think you could have introduced those elements so quickly off the bat, because I think to a normal movie-going audience, you kind of need to have some sort of grounded elements that kind of help like you engage with the franchise. Because I think they wanted to really open the franchise out to a new generation. I think that's the idea. Is like, okay, here's the opportunity to appeal to a new set of fans potentially and get them involved with the franchise. But I think it would be weird to just go, here's Green Hill Zone, he's running around the rings. Yeah.
I don't know. I come from the mindset where like I think a Sonic movie could have worked if it was presented in fully CG and it was just like you were kicking off a game and you had Sonic's World, Robotnik. But yeah, if you're going to do a live action one, it's very difficult to present modern Sonic as it is now in live action and really get a mass audience on board. I don't know. I would be interested to see like what casual moviegoers think of Tom and Maddie. Like, there's that Simpsons episode where they're watching, I forget what they're doing, but they have the kids with the dials and they're like, if you don't like what you see, turn it to the left. If you do like what you see, turn it to the right. And and they were like, oh, that one kid with the glasses really likes the bodybuilder. But I have to imagine that most people aren't going to be like turning it to the right constantly when Tom and Maddie are on screen. So I'm interested to see when the sequel comes out, and even if they do a third one, if their roles lessen. I almost feel like they're going to kick the movie off, and Tom and Maddie will be like, we're going to go to her sister's wedding in Hawaii. Bye. And then you see them at the end of the movie. It's kind of a trope now, because I think the Chipmunks did that in their live action. Like, it's always like the humans disappear for the rest of the movie, and then it's a lot more like what people liked before. I mean, even Paramount's Ninja Turtles did that with the sequel, Out of the Shadows, where it was like, oh, we got Bebop, Rocksteady, the classic theme song. So I'm optimistic for the future of the films. I just think it's so strange. We did a lot of videos in the past, and just seeing my reaction, I'm like, why is there a cop named Tom Wachowski in my Sonic movie, and he has a poster, or Maddie? Like, you see that, like, Maddie, and it's her name. I'm like, you show that to like I don't know how old I was when Sonic came out, like 8-year-old me, and I would be like, this is the Sonic movie in 2020? Yeah. What is going on?
Yeah, I know what you mean. It is bizarre, but I think, again, like, I don't think it was really made for the core, like, old school fan base. I think there's definitely elements there that they have like tried to involve them with, but I think they kind of wanted to expand it out to almost like a new generation, so that we can sell kids toys.
That's true.
New games.
And we do have the Netflix one on the horizon, which looks to be a lot more like an Into the Spider-Verse sort of Sonic.
I'm really curious to see what that turns out to be like, to be honest with you. I'm assuming they're going to go CGI and not sort of 2D art, but again, it's too difficult. It's too early to tell at the moment because we haven't even had an official trailer yet. So
right, yeah, I don't think it's going to be like actual other, like, it's not going to be like IDW Sonic, Archie Sonic, Sonic the Comic Sonic, like that sort of thing. I think it's going to be more within Sonic's universe. You're going to see Baby Robotnik, Grandpa Robotnik, because they showed the like old and young, and I think we're going to see like new dimensions within, like, created just for that. Like, you're going to see like future Sonic, past Sonic, maybe Baby Sonic. And George did have a question. He couldn't join us because he was working, but he wanted to know, because you're Sonic Yoda, like, what is your thought about there now being a Baby Yoda and a Baby Sonic existing around the same time? Like,
well, the moment they did the Baby Sonic thing for the first movie, it was very much a case of like, this feels like we're capitalizing on the fact that the Baby Yoda thing happened, right, and that it took off, and people really sort of like took to that and merchandised it to absolute crap.
Yeah.
So it just felt like a very similar case of just like, well, we can do that, right? And I'm sure it will be just as effective because the character's already cute. So we're just making him even cuter. So yeah, it's strange. It felt very forced with the Sonic thing, to be honest with you. It felt very like we need to do this because there's a merchandising opportunity, right? Which was strange because they didn't do an awful lot of merchandise.
No, not at all. And stuff that's finally coming out is still kind of having elements of those old designs. I think there's a vinyl statue, but Sonic has like the laced up shoes. So, you know,
really?
yeah. But yeah, it's in it. The Baby Sonic. I think it didn't catch on the way they wanted it to. I think including it within Sonic Colors Ultimate was a really weird move. It makes me think they had old stock and they were like, we got to get rid of these keychains.
yeah, absolutely. No, I agree completely.
It was so bizarre. But yeah, so before we wrap things up, is there anything you have planned in the short term for your site or for your YouTube channel? I know you talked about, what was it, Art Alive? People seem to really want...
That's on the horizon. I'm going to do an Art Alive video at some point. So it's going to be a similar thing. I'm basically going to just churn out video reviews of various games that whatever taking my fancy at any given point, and hopefully make an entertaining little video. So youtube.com/c/SEGAdriven if you want to watch me talk about junk and have a good time, and hopefully it will generally be Sega related. I generally always keep it Sega related, even if it is tenuous link. But yeah, that's kind of my thing. Is I like niche little Sega bits and pieces, and I will always be trying to make something interesting, and hopefully it's entertaining to watch. In regards to the website, obviously the news is the main sort of day-to-day focus. If there's anything going on, we're also reporting on the same sort of thing that SEGAbits are reporting. But at the same time, I would like to obviously put people's eyes on the hardware section and also the information resources regarding merchandise. That's the stuff that I'm really passionate about, and I'm always trying to add interesting bits and pieces to that to create a nice little information resource for people looking for random Sega stuff. And obviously, I've got a UK-centric focus, so if you are based in a different country and you want to see what our merchandise is like, then there's a good opportunity to see some weird stuff. So, yeah, that's kind of the main focus going forwards. That's SEGAdriven.com if you want to check it out. All the links and social media stuff are on the main page. So, yeah, that's it.
That's exciting. Yeah, and definitely don't be a stranger. I think moving forward when I do these shows, I want to bring people back on, especially people within the community, because I love to hear different people's takes. I really want to do things like roundtables when games come out, like give it a week for the game to simmer, and then have people come on and just kind of chat about their experiences with it. We've got so much stuff coming out, so I mean, once we have some games and some media, like I think the Sonic movie too would be a lot of fun to chat about. I'd love to have you back.
Absolutely, it'll be an absolute pleasure.
Awesome. Well, hey, again, that is Lewis, Sonic Yoda, SEGAdriven.com. Thank you so much for joining us. And the SEGAbits Swingin' Report show will be back in 2 weeks. I have a scary show. I'm scared because it might go completely wrong. I'm going to be doing a live demonstration of the Sega printer. So I'm going to roll out, it's going to be like an episode of Tool Time, if you've ever seen, it'll be like me sitting here with all the gear, and I'll be like doing it live. And I think my friend Steve's going to hop on. I'm going to do kind of like Japanese broadcasting, have him up in the corner, just kind of talking and reacting as I go.
Excellent.
I really hope it works though, because I don't want to power it on and I go, oh, it's broken. I bought a broken unit. So maybe I'll test it before then. But yeah, more of that, and yeah, absolutely, and more community stuff. So again, thank you so much for coming on, and have a fantastic night, and we'll see you on the next episode of the SEGAbits Swingin' Report Show